There we go. Hi, everybody. I'm Wendy Murdoch, and this is Webinars with Wendy. We are just continuing on, and I have fabulous guests coming down the line. And, you know, it's interesting because every time I go somewhere, I see someone and I go, would you please be a guest on my show? And I get them to yes, which is always fun. Doesn't mean that I always get them right away, but if I can get them to yes, I can get them on the show. So that's the important part. Today is my returning favorite people, Sharon and Laura Wilsie, coming back to talk more about horse speak. And if you have never heard of horse speak, I'll let them do a brief intro because we have how many webinars now in your playlist?
100 million.
100 million webinars in their playlist. So if you go to the Surefoot Equine YouTube channel and you go to playlist, there is a playlist for horse speak. And then you can see all of them from the beginning, and then you get all the jokes.
Yes. Yes.
Because we just roll on from joke to joke. Oh yes, I got my hair cut. I got rid of COVID.
Yeah, it's really cute, Wendy.
Sassy.
Sassy lassie.
Yeah.
I finally was like, I'm done with COVID here.
Cut off all that COVID stress and start.
Oh my God. It's great. It's great. All right. So let's get right to it. Welcome, Sharon and Laura. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
Thanks for having us. We look forward to these. We're like, we have a webinar with Wendy today. We look at each other. Yay.
Yeah.
That's really
We
good.
laugh a lot and never know where the conversation is going to end up. Yeah.
And one time we just talked about elephants.
Oh yeah. That was so cool.
Oh, so I have an interesting thing. I could start with horse speak, but I don't want to forget this thing.
Okay.
So there's a possibility that there's someone that we know really close to. She is a graduate from our program, and she's going to look into the possibility of going to Florida, where they have a reservation for the Grevy zebra and
wow.
Wild ass, maybe the onager. I'm not sure what kind.
In somewhere in
northern Florida. And you go out on horseback to see them because it's a big, I don't know, 17,000 acres or something crazy where they live. You know, the Grevy zebra is a little bit more endangered. So the potential is to go out and see if we can talk to the wild critters over there and have conversation with the wild ass and the wild zebra, just to record stuff that might occur. And I think that's a really neat opportunity. So I'm just a thumbs up, hoping that it works out.
When might that happen?
I don't know. We just thought about it a couple of days ago, but I wanted to let you know, because if you wanted to come, I'd be like, woohoo.
Yeah, give me the dates as soon as you have them.
Safari in Florida.
Yeah. No, give me the dates. I'm always, like this year, I'm trying to keep the schedule a bit open so I can do fun things like that. But you guys are apparently going back to Europe, right?
Yes, we're going on Monday.
Oh, that's soon.
Oh, yes.
Okay, where are you going?
Bavaria.
Good job. Okay, so
that was
any particular town in Bavaria? It's kind of
just Bavaria.
Just all of it.
Just all of Bavaria. Are you going to eat Bavarian cream and strudel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I love Bavarian
Schnitzel.
food. Schnitzel, I love schnitzel.
Oh, schnitzel. I did my Feldenkrais training with Mia Siegel in Bad Tolz. So Bad Tolz is a fun little town, great schnitzel place, fabulous bakeries. They have these almond cookies. Okay, we're digressing.
Yeah, I definitely.
Now I'm salivating and want to
The first time I visited Bavaria, we were there for I think 2 weeks, and I gained like 10 pounds.
Yeah. We ate so much food.
We just ate really well.
It's amazing food. It's amazing.
Where
food.
are we going to?
So here's where I'm not good at enunciating German.
Here.
So just type it in. I can't see that. Oh, okay.
Backwards.
Got it. I can't pronounce Kirken. Something Ecking Kirken. Kirchen is Kirken.
Yeah, Kirken.
A gherkin pickle. I don't know.
And I'm so
And you
sorry.
don't speak German either, right?
No, we took enough German lessons to understand it a little bit, read it a little bit, like to get by.
To guess.
But to enunciate correctly is really a whole other.
It is.
It's a whole other thing. And I don't like murdering the language with my poor enunciation.
Just got 2 more people join us, so I'm just getting them in.
So we can think now. That's
and then you're going back.
Yes.
Yes.
We're going back. I'm doing a solo mission out in the north at Gotingcliff, which is in a town in the north. I can't
Oh,
remember.
it's fine. Northern Germany.
And
got
that'll
it.
be in July.
It's on our website.
Yeah. And then we're going back again in September together.
Right.
Yes.
And so you're missing my party.
Yes. We're missing your party,
Mm.
which we would love to share space with you on Martha's Vineyard, because that would be fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know.
It'll happen.
It'll
One of
happen.
these days we'll get on that island together.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so let's get to our topic. I thought a great topic,
me.
which you have yet to tell anybody what horse speak is, but we'll go there, is that we should talk about the changes, the seasonal changes horses go through, and how horse speak can either help us deal with those seasonal changes. What are some of the seasonal changes we see? We've already had a webinar on seasonal health, right? And feet and those changes. So first, let's just have a brief intro of horse speak for the people who may be tuning in that have never heard of you. And then let's talk about spring.
All right, sounds great. To sum it up very, very, very simply, horse speak is the decoded micro movements that horses make in their gestures, postures, and signals to communicate with each other. That's what it is. And then what we've done is taken that study and figure out how we can imitate those primary gestures, postures, and signals to have what we call a conversation with a horse. And what that does for them is it helps them feel understood. It helps them ask better questions. It helps us be able to answer their questions. Those are the three reasons why horses and people get in trouble with each other.
Yeah. And so in the springtime, horses, some horses that have been, cooped up all winter, they couldn't be turned out, or horses that, the mares, the light starts getting longer, goes through some seasonal changes. So let's talk about some of the things that are sort of, I'm sure that you've come across issues that show up more in the spring.
Yeah, the light changing and the shadows changing, the same as in the fall. The light is lower and the light's rising higher, and the leaves come back to the tree. So my biggest experience from the horse's POV, from their point of view, is that they, how their eyes work differently than our eyes. Their depth perception is different. So the change of light and dark is really troubling for them. And they also, their brains are designed to make a mapping system of their world. And they do that through scent. They do that through memorization. So the scent part, they may want to put their nose down and sniff the ground more often. We've noticed that, like, you're taking a horse out for a walk in the spring and they want to, or in the fall, and they want to put their nose down and be like, is this the same ground? Does it smell the same? Because visually it's changing. Is this the same map? It's same like when you take them in or out of a barn, that light change. We someone told us, it might have been you, that it's like, it could take up to 20 minutes for their eyes to fully adjust to the change in light.
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
Their pupil doesn't respond to light and dark as well as ours does. Ours does this, but theirs is rectangular. So it has a different system, and it takes them a little bit longer to deal with the change. So when they see changes in light and dark on the ground, is that a step down? Is that a shadow that means down? Or is it just a shadow? And then if the shadow's moving, is that a thing that's moving? Because like the wind in the trees, so the shadow is moving. Is that a thing on the ground? Rocky yesterday was passing by this like a root that had been dug up, and it's just dried out and it's just sitting there, but it's like curvy.
It looks like a snake.
And he passed by it and he went, whoa, and he's walked by this thing every day, but the light was different yesterday than it has been. It was extremely bright. It's been very overcast for 2 weeks here.
Oh, wow.
And so in the bright light, that stick looked different. And he was like, whoa, today that looks different. And the good thing about horse speak was I was able to assure him that you're safe. And that's all they want to know. They just want to know, am I safe? Do I have to protect myself, or can I look to my human and they can give me the feedback that I need so that I can let that go and move on? And in a healthy horse herd, you have the horses that are better at discerning things than others. So those are like the sentry horses. They're just better at, they stay less flustered. They don't get riled up as quickly. They have a better processing system, something about their sense acuity and how they're put together. They consider things longer. And there's horses that just go, I don't know, jump and run. I don't even want to know. So in a healthy horse herd, you have those horses that make that assessment. And if it looks like a snake, that horse will go approach it, whereas the other horse will jump and run away from it and say, like, is that a snake? So we do the body language of the horse that would approach, and we say, I'll protect you, let me look at that stick. And it's as quickly as this, he was walking by and he jumped a little bit, and I just pointed and made the breath sound, which is like that, and then looked at him and then tail swish like this, which would be down by your thigh. So it's one. So you don't go swish, 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 which would be I'm annoyed. This is I'm annoyed. You see them do that with their tail.
Yeah.
So annoyed, I'm so bothered right now. Just one tail swish is okay, all done. I'm done with it. Thing's over, it's over. We're all set. And it's also how they say goodbye, which is really cool. So when they're walking off and they're all done, they feel complete with the connection with you. They'll go do a little thing like this. So as you turn your horse loose, you know how horses, you turn them loose in the spring and they want to go buck, 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 buck. When you turn them loose, if you back off and do one tail swish by your thigh, that's a way of saying we're complete. And what we've noticed is horses tend to go, okay, and mimic you, back away a little bit, turn around, do a tail swish at you, take a few steps, and then they might run because there's a completion in what's happening.
This makes me really think, because like when I turn my horses out, they always stand at the gate and go, are we going to do, is there a cookie? Or is there something?
Yeah.
Brad always gives them cookies.
Right.
So I'm wondering if I just do a little tail swish, if that would just tell them, hey guys, there's nothing else coming. Go find your hay. I threw it over it's so funny because we throw it over the electric fence to make them walk around, and they're like, oh, it's over the other side again.
Yeah. And the other thing that's really cool to do when you bring your horses out into pasture in the morning, and we started doing this because we've moved all our horses to a new farm. And so they've been dealing with, so all of a sudden we have these beautiful inner zero horses. They're just like, little monks walking around very peaceful all the time. And we moved them here and they're all like in a red zone. Like, what the hell, mom, you moved us all to a new property. It's not like there was other horses here that said, welcome committee, I'll make you safe. But there was the smell of other horses.
Yeah, I was gonna say there was a smell, and it was a breeding farm.
Right.
And so there's all kinds of
stallion
different
smell,
scents.
baby smell. So they were just
7
like
horses buried in the ground.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to take in. So when we've been taking them into their turnout, we do what the sentry horses do, is that they'll go to the edge and they'll sniff the edge. The sentries are the protectors, the mentors, but horses that take that role, they'll go to the edge and sniff a couple spaces. They'll take the outer edge away from the other horses. The weak stay in and the strong go out to check out possible danger. So they'll sniff a couple spots and then kind of determine it's okay today. I don't sniff any bees, bears, or boogeymen today, right now. And they'll do a little tail swish and then move on. And the rest of the herd knows, okay, it's safe. So we've been taking our horses to 3 spots along the fence. Just walk to this one. Okay. Walk to the next one. Okay. Walk to the next one. Big breath out, tail swish. The fence is fine. And they literally blow out that big one, they go that kind of thing. And they'll kind of like lick and chew, nom, nom. And then they walk off and it's much more quiet. They integrate better. They don't run to the hay and get them. And if they want to run around, they can, but they're not doing it because they're fresh and it's all like, what's going on. Because part of horses play, what we see as play, is also practice for defensive maneuvers if something's wrong.
Yeah, for sure. And that brings up a really good point actually about play, because, so many people I see that I'm playing with my horse, and some of the behaviors I see to me are not play.
Right.
They're either reactionary or defensive or combative, because, how do I put this? Adult horses are only going to do that if there's a need for it in an environment, as opposed to a interaction. So can you talk about that a bit and how you see that, and what would be good social or interaction versus what some people term as play, that when I watch, the horse's ears are pinned, or they're there's behaviors that to me are like, oh my God, that person's going to get hurt because she's not reading that. That's not play. That's actually a defensive behavior, and the horse is annoyed.
That's right. Yeah. And there was that famous video that circulated a few years ago of some poor girl who thought she was playing with her horse, and he's at liberty and they're going over jumps and she's giving him treats, and his ears are pinned, but he's doing it. And then she got out of position. She got back to there's buttons along the horse's body. We call them buttons because it's an interactive zone. It's not push a button. It's not magic. It's an interactive zone. And they have these buttons along from nose to tail, and they use those buttons to communicate different meanings and intention to each other. And one of them is by the back of the belly. So the lowest part right in front of the stifle, where it's very vulnerable there. That's where babies go under to nurse. And mares and stallions will scent each other before mating. Best friends will scent each other there. So it represents intimacy and vulnerability. It also represents, this is where I could get gored. Like that's the least defended spot. So predators go for that spot if they want to take them down. So we call it the jump up button, because if you're not aware of what you're doing and you stimulate that spot, you're stimulating a defensive maneuver, which is to jump up and kick out. And that's exactly what this horse does. She has him go over a jump, but she's gotten into the jump up button spot, and it's overstimulating for him. And he jumps up and kicks out and catches her. And it's really unfortunate. And the whole time he'd been doing what she asked, but he was overstimulated. His ears were pinned. So there's backwards ears, which is concentrating. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Horses will concentrate like we do. And you might be taking a test and you scrunch up your face and you look like you're in pain, and you're not in pain. You're just concentrating, and you make this kind of serious expression.
It can be painful.
It can be painful to take a test, for sure. But horses will make this sort of grimacing, focusing, and they're just thinking really
Rocky,
hard.
You take him for a walk every time he's concentrating.
We're walking. He's very serious about it.
Yeah.
He's having a great time, but we're walking here. But this, the other expression of flat back ears, they tend to arch the poll a lot more and get a defensive posture, or they lift their head really high in this kind of defensive posture. So there's a lot more tension in the body. They're not sort of head forward, basically neutral, but concentrating. And so this horse had gone into that high, we call it the cobra strike. It's like they've gone high and they're going to lash out, right, if something keeps going. So he's in this very high, tight position, and you could see his energy was too lifted. But for her, she didn't know. And she thought, like, we're having fun and I'm giving him treats and he's doing everything I ask. Why would he hurt me? But you might as well be playing with a wild deer or a moose or something. Like when they get into that triggered place, they're a wild animal, and horses return to the wild very quickly, as we can see in Mustangs. So there, you can take the horse out of nature, but you can't take nature out of the horse. And they have this defensive tactic, and it can trigger, and then whoops, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Right. With the wrong energy, because you could be accidentally like asking the jump up button to jump up when you're right next to it, which is right in alignment to get kicked.
Right.
And it happens so fast.
So let's talk about how do we read a horse? Like, people want to interact with their horse. I get that. But there's some things. Does the horse see this as play? As we call it, I'm playing with my horse. Or does the horse see this as I'm being moved? I mean, how can we as people discern what the level of interaction is from a horse speak perspective?
Oh, yeah.
And know that, wait a second, my horse, I'm reading this as this is great fun, and my horse is like, this isn't fun at all.
Right.
How do we learn to read that?
One thing, can I say?
Go ahead. I'm ready.
I'm
ready. I got 3 things to say. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
And
bullet list.
maybe it's similar, but it could be different because we are 2 different people. So the one thing that we talk about from a horse speak perspective is the first thing we talk about in the book is 0. So how can we get a horse to a state of inner calm first? Because we do meet a lot of horses who in their stall, they're in kind of a red zone. They're like weaving, or
red zone means
just a high intensity level. You can see that they're just not
nervous system is triggered.
Yeah, they're
not calm.
Sympathetic. They're not calm. You can visually see this. And so we want horses to be at 0. So therefore they're in more of a learning state. We have a better safety protocols if they're in a calmer state. So when we can do things very well at a walk and have a very good whoa, when we're just talking about, let's just being on the ground doing some enrichment, then when we're really good walking, then we can ask for movement.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have a good walk and everything
zero.
at zero is chill at walking, then the chances when you do ask for higher energy, that's when there could be a problem, because if you go out every day and ask your horse to run around
And buck.
and freak out, then that's the pattern that we've accidentally created. So when you show up, it's time to freak out.
They expect
Then
it.
They expect it. And then there's nothing to go back to because everything has been up. So when you start down at zero, everything calm, then ask for some movement, then the chances are greater to have less of a reactivity from the horse's perspective. And then also we can have more fun with them because we go up and then we come back down.
And we go up a little and we come down a little. When you think about horses playing, that's exactly what they do. They go up, 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 up a little bit. They go down. They take a break. They take a breath. They step away. They drink some water. They walk away a little bit. They come back up. They ask, play button. They ask on the face, shall we play some more? And if the answer is yes, they go up, 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 up a little bit, maybe make a half circle, maybe one full circle, and they stop and they go down, because their practice is about how do we self-regulate? How do we co-regulate? So it's not about the up energy. It's about how quickly can we also bring each other down, because co-regulation is essential to herd health.
That's a really good point about you're toggling. I think of it as toggling and figuring out how you can tighter the energy and then, but let it go tighter and let it go. So, because I see sometimes where it's there, that point of letting it down doesn't necessarily happen and the horses start to get frantic.
Yeah, and there's, it's a fascinating thing to observe when a horse is going into pinned ears, maybe on a lunge line. You can see this, we call it X energy, up, everything is just tight and
They've
up
gone into
and
the red
arched.
zone. There's
And
nothing left.
Then what sometimes happens with people, unfortunately, is that they then escalate to be bigger than
Yes,
before,
exactly. That's what I
rather
mean.
than drop it to stop it.
Mhm.
Horse, you're in the red zone. I'm going to stay in my zero and we're going to
We're going to
slow
bring
down.
you back
I
down.
like that.
And there's
Drop
an
it to
easy
stop it.
way. Stop it to stop it.
It's in the book.
And there's an easy way to refocus them on something, which is that horses make what's called safety objects. We've talked about this before. They'll make a poop when they feel comfortable and relaxed and happy. They'll make a relaxed, happy poop. They groan and they grunt and I felt good. And they'll turn around and sniff it, and they'll kind of get high off their own supply, and they'll walk away. They'll come back, they'll sniff it some more because they made happy pheromones in that poop. But they'll also pick a spot. So they'll pick a spot, put their nose on it, maybe do a little muzzle massage. They'll kind of rub their face like this on a spot on the wall, on a barrel, on something. And they do that, and then they rest there. So they know how to say to themselves and to others, this is my safe place. I'm going to rest here. This is my safety poo. You're all welcome to smell my safety poo. And then other horses will. And if it's on the other hand, if it's a stress poo, this is how they read the paper, because that horse said this spot stressed me out. So other horses come in, even if you've moved the poo, the pheromones are still there. So when we go in and we say, well, let's make sure we can't correct that all the time. We can't fix the pheromones that horses have left, but we can say, we'll make a safety object. Let's pick something good size, like the mounting block or a barrel or a big traffic cone. Let's pick something. We're going to go there. I'm going to touch it with my hand or my foot, and I'm going to go, and there's scent that comes out of your palm. So if you're touching it with your palm, as you're breathing out, you're making good pheromones. You're making a nice scent there.
I love this mounting block.
I love it here. I love the spot on the wall. Thank you, spot on the wall. You're wonderful. And what horses literally do is put their nose there and go, really? That's a good spot on the wall. And then they go, oh, it is. It's such a nice spot on the wall. Then you have your recapitulation
And we've literally
zone.
seen that switch.
Literally.
When we've had at a clinic asked somebody, go touch the wall, and they're like touching the
wall.
And we're like, no, actually love the wall.
And then they, as a joke, they go, I love you, wall. It was 3 people. It was 3 people in hand at that time.
Yeah.
And all the horses were kind of like this. They said, I love you, wall, all at the same time. And all 3 horses went, boom, that wall is safe, and put their heads right on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
really
when
cool.
you have that, you have your recapitulation zone. So let's say you're working with a horse that flicks into red a little too quick. So you would come to your safety object, you'd move away, do a little activity, and then you would either bring them back or look for them to say, can I go back to my safety object now? because what they will choose to do is learn self-regulation. They'll choose to do that if you build their confidence that you mean it, and that if they need to go there, you're going to say yes. And what we've discovered is really ironic, and it's total like reverse psychology for us. You'll get better movement at speed, more collection, better engagement, more mind in your ride. More of their mind is with you when you're riding. If you do the safety object thing and you make the focus of your early lessons or training about going to zero, because you've completed an essential part of the horse's psychology, which is, I'm going to show you how you get back down so that when we go up, you can actually be with me. We're going up together. This is play. And they'll stretch it out, and they'll get to a point where they can go around the arena 5 times at canter, and they come back down. You say, do you need your safety object? And they just look at it and go, I feel good.
Especially
that will happen, but only if you've gone slowly, piece at a time, and given them the way to bring themselves back down. Otherwise, we're constantly nagging at them for the rest of their lives.
And it's great reconditioning for springtime, actually,
Yes.
is to, you know, if you haven't ridden all winter, it's a great idea to start small, because who knows the environmental changes that happen throughout the season. And here we are in a new season, and starting small. So then you can notice any of these little things where the horse is like, I'm not too sure about that corner. So, okay, we're going to create safety objects all the way to the corner. So then long term, the rest of the summer, you don't have to deal with this problem with the corner.
I have an interest. I read this really quick. Barb says, after I give a treat, my horse will lick the door or the wall or the gate or something, to as if pasting the taste there for later. And I want to say, notice the places the horse wants to put their nose or that they want to lick. And instead of giving the treat, this was fascinating when I discovered this. Instead of giving the treat, go to that spot, put your hand on it and breathe out. The exhale is essential for the horse's mental health. They thrive on our ability to sigh out, because what do they do when they feel well-being? They sigh out. What do they do if they're feeling tense? They hold their breath. So sighing out means you, horse, also can sigh out. You can release. And if you go and you put your hand on the place that they have assigned and you sigh out, you're saying release first. Then you treat them after they've had a breath and release, because then you're also rewarding the release.
Good suggestion. I always would say, when in doubt, breathe out.
Yeah.
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 Yep. Because you'll always breathe back in, but the breath is typically held. So you've got to exhale. You've got to get the air out first before the body can take more air in.
Yeah. And if we're not breathing, then we're triggered into sympathetic nervous system. So then the horse may not be breathing either. So then you're both triggered, and then,
Right.
you know,
Oh, well.
yep, then there you are.
And this is where surefoot pads can be super helpful too, in terms of that toggling, especially in springtime. It's just reestablished. Yes, you can let down. Yeah, you can find that parasympathetic. Because I think that people don't, well, case in point, you know, like sometimes it's not so easy to realize that the horse isn't at zero. I mean, I've seen horses that look, they're standing still, everything's fine, but they're not at zero.
That's right.
The eye and the breathing.
The eye and the breathing are the dead giveaway.
Yep.
For that.
Yep.
And you know that. And that is the difference that happens on the pads. We were just at Misty Meadows, and we were doing enrichment. You know, we were doing different enrichment things, and a lot of safety object stuff, because these horses work hard for a living. And then when we had our safety objects kind of set up, I said, you know, go get the pads and put them between the safety objects. And the horses went so deep. They love the pads anyway.
What was that one? He was like, first of all, he went on a mat. It
He
was
was-
just like a gymnastic mat that they had out there. So he just stood there and like, get the pads.
Get the pads.
And so then he stood on the pads forever. And then we took the pads away. And then he went back to the mat. And we're like, okay.
Like, you guys took it away. Which one? Who was that? Do you remember?
Finn.
Yeah, Finn.
Oh, okay. Well, that's awesome for Finn. That's
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, totally.
And he was loose. He was at liberty, and he chose to be inside the safety objects, either on the surefoot pads or on the damn gymnastics pad. He was like, I've got my safe, well, I'm in my safe
I'm
place.
here.
Don't disturb
Don't
me right
touch
now.
me.
Don't touch me. But it was great, because we would then take him away and do something, because I was showing how to do something and then bring enrichment into it. And that's really also great for people who are coming for lessons, because if you're doing lessons and you have a student coming, a lot of times they have a little anxiety. And when they mark the safety object with the horse before riding, both of their nervous systems kind of get into alignment in a lower, more relaxed place. They feel more connected to each other. So in the middle of the ride, sometimes things can happen. Snow falls off the roof. Or
someone was doing a lesson yesterday and a part of the roof came off the barn.
Oh,
flew off the barn. Run to the safety object. No, this was a friend
in
of ours.
Connecticut.
Yeah.
oh dear.
Yeah, one of our graduates, she was doing a horse peak lesson. She's like, and the roof came off the barn. And I was able to say, in times like these, when you keep doing the safety object and the sentry position, your horse will
zero.
You're being zero. Your horse will just look at you and say, "What should I do?" Instead of
Yeah. All right. So you talk about enrichment a lot. What is your definition of enrichment? How, yeah.
Well, enrichment is so going back to the food thing for a moment. I had learned a lot of clicker training at one point. It was a great tool for some of the worst trauma cases at the horse rescues that I worked at, because you can do pattern interrupt on a trauma reaction to like a strike lead rope. They have these weird traumas and it's just like they flip into that red zone and they're really dangerous to themselves and others. So how can you do pattern interrupt on that and actually get them to a better place? But the problem was that once we got to a certain place with that, and it was like these horses had been so close to a red zone anyway, that it was almost like a generalized anxiety took the place of where the common triggers had been, because now they were anxious about when's the food coming. Like, when you're feeding horses dinner and they're like, bring me the food. They weren't necessarily doing that, but there was always this like a little bit high and tight. And I was looking for a way to actually get them super calm, because it's hard to rehome horses who are high and tight, right? Because people are like, that's a lot of horse. I don't want to deal with that. So part was that exploration, and part was the exploration of teaching at a riding stable where I had 20 client hours a week. And you're not going to clicker train the horses at the riding barn because you don't want students coming and the horse looking for treats, and it gets messy. So that was, but how could I have a pattern interrupt or a way for horses and people to feel connected to each other that didn't involve treats, but did create that wonderful sensation that you get when you give a treat? So what we figured out was breath and space was the first form of enrichment. So when the horse did something that you liked, like you said, can you stand still while I put your saddle on? I know you don't like the girth, but you stood still really well. What we want to do as people is go, oh, you did good. But actually, if they're overstimulated, this is worse.
Or smack.
Or good job. That's not actually rewarding for them. So I said, step away, breathe out, and just put your hands like this and relax your shoulders, relax your neck. So show relaxation, breathe out, step away, give them some space. And it was like a charm. So then I started saying, well, this is an enrichment for them. They feel enriched via this behavior that people are doing. So I was like, what else is enriching for them? And that's when I found out about safety objects are enriching for them. And then what kind of touch is enriching for them? So like cupping can be enriching, or tea touches can be enriching, certain kinds of body work. But a lot of horses will reject touch, body work, tea touch, any of that stuff if they're stressed or if they're worried about things in the environment. So providing a safe environment is enriching for them, because you're saying there's no lions and tigers and bears, there's no bees and boogeymen. I've checked it out. I've made sure you're okay every day, because in a horse's world, bears show up, bees make a nest overnight, and you never know when the boogeyman is going by. Boogeyman could be that horse eating squirrel in the tree. So if you go every day and touch 3 things in their environment, like you mean business. And this was based on observing horses following any farmhand who was out fixing fences or working or doing something, messing with the tools, knocking the rake over, standing right over them while they're banging in nails, just like calm as happy as a clam, following them around. And I was like,
stepping on tarps,
doing all the things you want them to do in the arena, but they're doing it over here watching the handyman. And so I'm like, well, what is it about that? And I finally realized, when we turned the horses out, I realized it was a horse that would go sniff the fence posts and look like the damn handyman. So I said, aha, when you look busy like that and you're attending to things, you look like you're inspecting it, you're checking it,
A
and you
calm,
mean
confident
business.
leader.
Yeah. And to them, it's a similar enough behavior that made them feel like you've secured the environment.
Our affect really does have a huge role in how the horses are going to be with us. We have one of our students says, it's time to go get ice cream to the horses to get them on the trailer.
And then they go,
Because
oh,
she's
Trying to get ice cream.
they're not going to get ice cream. And obviously they're not going to get ice cream.
oh,
but
mind
because
you, her affect.
her affect. Or hey, we had another student where Sharon's like, okay, here's what you have to do with the fly spray or anything like the saddle.
Anything that you're having a problem with the horse, you link it to their regular food time. And then you have a fun saying about it, like horses that have had saddle trauma or whatever at the rescues, I would link it to their food time. I'd be like, we need to get dressed for dinner. Let's get your tuxedo on. Dinner's coming. And it might just be a bareback pad.
And
Right.
one of our students did it with the fly spray the other day, who's had issues with doing fly spray and all of that. So she decided it was time for dinner. And so she has the barn shut. And so then she's like, we have to get dressed for dinner, guys. And she was able to spray down the horses. And one had this whole thing with the ear and all of that. And she was able to have 100% success because she said, let's get dressed for dinner, and then opens the door and the horses go into.
And
So
she's
whose
like,
behavior are we changing here?
It's both.
it's
It
always
really
us.
is. It's not the horse, it's you. Okay. I'm sorry. It's really true.
But if we're like, I got to get this fly spray
Yeah.
on you.
And it's
Yeah.
all business.
No,
Like, they're like, dude, what are you doing? I don't want to be near you. You're all crazy right now. Like,
And that research by Karen McComb came out a few years ago about horses recognizing human facial
Oh,
expression.
yeah.
And that they remember the last facial expression you had to them when you left.
Wow.
Kind of like the crow experiment where they remember faces and they tell their kids.
Oh, crows are amazing. I've been trying to get my crows to come back. They're back. They're
Did
now
you
getting
see
cats.
the video where the one is surfing on the plastic cover on the roof,
On a snowy roof.
Oh, yeah.
bringing it back up to the top? It does it like a bunch of times. That was so awesome.
So in terms of, let's just go back to enrichment for a second. In terms of enrichment, that what I'm hearing from you is that enrichment, doing things that make horses feel safe, lightheartedness, not stressful, that's enrichment. In other words, we don't have to be making them do things for enrichment.
Right.
Enrichment is really doing what they would do with each other
Yes.
in terms of social behaviors that are comforting versus
Yes.
what we think of as, well, we're going to have to go out and do this stuff because you're bored in your life. And so I need to do these activities. You know what I'm talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like the enrichment, for instance, the enrichment of making things a safe place to be. You can then take, like, people like to go trail riding.
Well, here's like,
Right.
so if you're saying that, we
Trail.
can then,
okay.
no, because of that comment, how can you get a horse that is anxious on a trail ride in open space?
So then you bring something with you that you're going to either keep in your pockets, like little discs, little frisbees you can throw out that you're going to arrive at, if it's okay to leave them there, or you just find a clump of grass. You go, this clump of grass is a safe place to be. But you can't invent a safety object from their back, having never done it on the ground. You need to go through the pattern of doing it on the ground so that you both identify, what does the breath sound like? What does the body language sound like? How do you feel inside yourself? You have to believe yourself. So you might have to say, like, I love you, Walt. You have to make it silly so that you're more believable, that you are in fact relaxed. You can't just go, this is safe.
And with a
It
horse,
doesn't work. So if you're on their back, you sound the same, you breathe the same, you make the same gestures while you're up there. And then you're like, this is a safe place. And in some cases, it may be appropriate to treat at the safe place. In other cases, that will backfire.
Right.
because then they'll get more
Because they'll
anxious.
get anxious about, like, oh, when's the next treat coming? So that's a play-by-play.
And it's fascinating too to talk about. We've talked about the mentors and the teachers are the protectors, or the characters that are going on the outside. And those are the type of horses that are great on a solo mission trail ride.
Mhm.
But then if you do have
A middle of the
another,
herd type,
like a pond, which
or a
peanut butter,
skeptic.
ones that are a little bit more hesitant, bottom line is a hesitant energy type, then that particular horse may not be able to have comfort in going out by themselves because they are reliant on the other herd members for their safety.
So
And
you-
that's when we can help
Mhm.
them. If we show up as the protector and scan the horizon, do a swish tail at whatever
They're
and
scared of, right?
whatever they're scared of, and that we can
Which
be
would
that.
mean like you look at it, you go, I see that tree moving. You stare at it for a minute, like the handyman, you stare at it and then you're like, swish tail, it's fine. Now, if they're really a skeptic, really a hesitant, really one of these horses, you may have to do it 300 or 400 times. Like it may just come up
Small-
and up and up.
Small pieces, stop it where you're having great success. Don't keep going.
Don't push.
Right.
Don't turn around. Don't be like, one more thing. No.
No.
Enrichment is-
Never one more, never.
And you know what the interesting thing about that, Heidi? And there is like a
Wendy.
why
Why
do
do
you
you
always do
call her
that?
Heidi?
I don't know. So
Past life,
funny.
maybe.
You can call Arthur-
so weird. Your alter ego is, yeah, anyway, your twin. So one of the weird things is that the brains like to learn in sets of three. They like to do things in sets of three. Sets of three is a completion, right? So horse brains like that too. And you'll notice they do a lot of patterns in a set of three. If you're really watching them do their behaviors, you're watching them fulfill a certain pattern, they'll do it 3 times. It might take a half an hour to do all 3, because sometimes when they're really thinking they're moving slow, go sniff the thing, walk far away, come back 20 minutes later, sniff it again. But they'll do it in a pattern of 3. And after the 3rd time, they've made a decision and that's when they go, okay.
Like yesterday, we went to the hardware store and I ended up having to make 3 separate purchases because of space cadet status. And by the 3rd time, the lady remembered my phone number to put in for my points.
Sets of 3.
Sets of 3.
So a lot of times what's happening is we did something in a set of 3 with the horse. We did a complete thing and it was a set of 3 and they memorized it. We got to 3 because the 3rd one is when they go, aha, I got this. But 4 is a new one. And what happens to them is the new one is an opportunity to ask, like, okay, you picked up the coffee cup 3 times. Okay, you did that 3 times, right? 1, 2, 3, you just did it. But from a horse now, the new one is they're going to say, was it this high where it was successful or was it this high where it was successful? So now they get a little bit more nitty gritty, giving you feedback of like, can we be a little more precise? I get the thing. I get you want me to pick up the coffee cup 3 times, but did you want the handle this way or did you want it
So
tilted?
more subtle nuances can be observed when you get to that 4.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And they'll want to do a new set of 3 about those nuances. And
Right.
what's amazing is that when you pause there, if you just make it kind of your habit to pause after 3, you will start to pick up on so much more subtlety from the horse. And they feel like I've got a break so I can digest what just happened. And the next time around, they open that new number 1 with curiosity. But if you push them through to the 4, they're like, no, I can't memorize it. This is my chance to ask you the questions and I can't, it's too much, it's too fast.
Right.
It's like we're at the chalkboard, and the teacher asked another question. We went, oh,
Yep.
And one
Overload.
of the comments here about their sentinel horse tried to grab the tank heater yesterday and accidentally got shocked. It won't come near it, of course. How do I get him past it? And so that's one of
shoot.
those fascinating things of like, for one thing we like to practice with mounting blocks especially is killing it. And so you kick it and don't hurt your foot.
don't hurt yourself.
But
Make sure it's
have an
unplugged.
of like, you darn thing, you stay there, and you like kind of dominate the object and be like, you're a bad mounting block or you're a bad water tank, and kick it around and be like, you stay here.
And you keep the horse on the other
Other
side of, so you're between them and the dangerous thing. And you're like scolding the thing as you walk by. And then they say, oh, good, you're protecting me from the object. And what happens is you do that 3 times and they start to go, okay, now my new number 1, I might be a little curious. I might be interested. Or you then go make a safety object and the barrel is safe. We got by that, we got past it. Let's go to our safety cone. Whoo, and now you bring the safety cone closer to the scary object, which
But
is
in
the
the
same.
meantime, with this particular situation, she needs to make sure the horse is getting enough water. Because
Right, you can do this in one setting. You can do
Yeah.
this all in one go. But if you take the electric piece and you sort of make it a big show of that, you're saying, it's safe. And then you're bringing a safety object closer to the tank. And then you go and you change affect and you start playing with the water in the tank. And what you're doing is showing that this is okay. We've had
And
horses
love
that
the tank.
love the tank, get in the tank, whatever it takes.
Breathe out.
Breathe out, sigh. We had someone whose horse wouldn't go in the stall for a year after his buddy died. And it was a, free choice. He could go in or out of the stall. He's getting older. She didn't want to have to blanket him all winter and he just would not go in the stall. So we went, and one session I had her walk around, make the fence safe, create one safety
'Cause
object.
there were bears and what have
There
you
were
going-
bears.
Yeah.
Create one safety object for the horse to agree on. So he's like, aha, I see what you're doing. Because they need to know, like, what's the point? So you make a safety object. Aha, okay, I get it. I see what you're doing. Then she went into the stall and she banged on the walls like the handyman. I was like, pretend like you're banging in nails. And she did that. And then she got to the door and she put her hands on her hips. Tail swish about the stall and she walked off. Well, she called me later. That's it. He didn't go in at that moment. So he may not go and drink at that moment, but he went that night. He went in, she called us and she goes, holy cow, he's in there. I had to feed him his dinner in there. And then she wrote to us the next day and goes, he won't come out.
yeah.
So it's surprising, but you're using their language and what an elder horse will do to help an insecure horse get through their troubles. So you're using the same system. It's just that we have hands, they would use maybe their hoof or maybe their nose, maybe they'd roll something around. And if you want to, take your nose and bang things, that's fine. But I think it's better to do things like this.
Yep. And just, I've never, like I've had water heaters for a long time and had horses play with them and not have a horse get shocked. So just check your unit too. I mean.
Right, that's
Yeah.
a big one. Yeah, on a practical electrical level. Oh, we know someone whose water heater, whose water tank didn't even have the heater in it anymore. And the horses were still getting a little shock every now and then. There was electricity grounding out a half a mile away in the woods
Wow.
from an old wire thing. And her husband's an electrician and he was able to use like the telluric currents. He was able to map the currents and find where electricity was occasionally coming and zapping their water tank. So yeah, it's really important to make sure that there isn't electricity there. Otherwise you're lying. So you don't want to lie.
Right.
Move the water tank.
There's
Water
somebody
tank.
who asked a question about Surefoot and the horse didn't stand on the pads. Why don't you just email me, Wendy at Wendy Murdoch, and we can talk about it because it sounds like it was at a clinic. I don't know how the horse was approached. There's a lot of questions I have about this that I really can't answer from just this little snippet. So Marion, if you want to just email me, I'll pop my email address in here and
You know what's interesting about that, Heidi? Oh my gosh, why do I do that, Wendy? Gosh.
Suck.
I don't know why I do that. Anyway, I've watched you behave in that enrichment capacity when you're putting out the pads. And I think I've noticed that some people are not in the enrichment body language when they're putting out pads. They're kind of like, you have to get on this thing. And
You're
when-
like very
and that's
nonchalant.
hugely different,
Mhm.
different when there's an expectation. And I think that's the same with your stuff is there isn't an expectation that the horse is going to acknowledgement. It's just an offer that this is what I'm going to go to the safety cone and breathe out and act like this thing is the best thing since sliced bread. If you choose to join me, that's fine, but you don't
Exactly.
have to. And
Right.
I do see that when there is an expectation that it, with some horses, it just, they're like, no, can't do it.
Mhm. And you
somebody
know
said-
what else you bring to the table is you always are breathing out. Like you're so aware of your affect and what you're bringing to it. And you're bringing a sense of, I am your elder and mentor.
Yeah.
These pads are about to make you feel beautiful and amazing. You're going to love it, but it's your choice. And that's what you bring. And the horses go, oh, elder and mentor, I'd love to
You're
try the
amazing,
pads. Thank
sure."
you so much. I tried. You're right. It's amazing.
I never even looked at it that way. That's really good. Oh, somebody has, how do I settle a mentor when I need to take the horse out that they protect?
I know.
Yeah.
That is a weird one. Yeah. So A lot of times what I will do is, in that case, is again, come back to the safety object, but now there's a different use. You're having the one they want to protect, go to the safety object and the mentor at the same time. Breathe out, give some space. If you've got the one you're taking out on a lead rope, just breathe out, give some space to the two of them. Let everyone settle, let everyone's nerves come down, and then ask the mentor to move off. And because we've got that when we're taking Rocky out of the fence, the girls come running, or if we're taking one of the girls out that he thinks is the most vulnerable, he's like pacing the fence line. So if I stop and have them touch like the wall of the shelter before I go out, and we just kind of hang out there for a minute, he'll let out a big snort. He'll go, and I'm like, okay, he's decided that it's okay for me to take this horse. And then that just makes it easier. He's not calling and whinnying for the horse when we've taken him out. So it's really fascinating psychology that they use objects to define and describe the essence of, is the world safe? Well, this object is, so therefore, yes, or else no. And so if I take the responsibility of saying this gate is safe, this thing is safe, whatever, and it's weird, it just works into your body language and just becomes part of what you do, and you don't even think about it anymore.
So somebody's asking a question: how can we bring this lightness and even some fun to lunging horses for exercise instead of having such a serious human perspective? On the line and free lunge, no round pen. My horses and I guess that's in addition. My horses in Icelandic, it seems to resent being lunged, mostly because my demanding way of doing it, I'm sure.
Yes. Well, once you're at that place, Laura already talked about coming to zero first. We already talked about making safety objects so they know the place is safe. Let's talk about the psychology of lunging. And this is how to get the yes, how to get to the answer that she wants. The psychology of lunging is that, what have we said all day? The protector horses go to the outside, the weak ones go to the inside. So when you start them running, you're saying, go to the outside and protect me. So if you started instead by describing the outside of the circle you're about to make, walking it, put up cones, a couple of them that are holding the outer edge of the lunge. You'll be lunging to the inside of the cones. And you walk to each one, you get to make the spaces around that area clearly safe. And also the way horses perceive the arena and the area that they're in is that every new placement that they are on, that we call it a chessboard. All right, now I'm facing the scary door, but now it's at my jump up button. And now it's directly behind me, that scary door that smells bad. And now I'm way over here and I feel better. I can, what were you saying? But now I'm coming over here. Now I have to face the door again.
We've watched a horse do this multiple times.
Oh my God, the door is, okay. I can think, what did you want over here? Oh my God, the door again. So if you have described all those spaces and places and said, everything's okay, and now I'm going to go to the inside track because I'm little, and you take the outside track. And then when you're actually doing the lunge, if you actually want the horse to feel good about it, only do a half circle to one circle and then ask them to stop, come in and go down and breathe out with you. And when you do that pattern for a couple of days, what happens is they say, oh, this is about, we're moving together, we're a herd of two, and we're doing this movement stuff together. Oh, I can stay with you. You're with me, right? You're just little and you're on the inside track, no problem.
And depending on the, the energy type, whether it's a stoic, a hesitant, or an outgoing horse. Wendy, do you remember when we were in Virginia and you came to our clinic and we set up a ring of cones and we actually lunged the horse on the inside of the cones in comparison to the outside of the cones?
Yeah.
It was huge. Those cones symbolized we're in a safe
Protection.
circle.
When he was to the outside of the cone, he was very turned to the outside and he did all his inversions and all that. And when the cones were to the outside of the horse, he was like, thank God that cone is there.
And it was those little pint-sized ones.
Well, and you
too.
had already gone around and made all those safety cones, right?
That's right. And even if you haven't, horses will. So we've set up a circle of safety cones, turned 3 horses loose. One of them is a joker. The joker is the type that's just like, and you know about jokers. And what happened was there was a sentry and there was a mentor, and they did their things and they were stoic and they held the edge and they looked at the audience. And I convinced them that I had the edge and that they were safe. And so all of a sudden they broke out into a little bit of spontaneous play with each other, which no one had ever seen, these two. And of course it was like, look at me, rear. Yes, look at me, buck. This is what I can do. Well, this is what I can. And they're like, well, the Joker said, oh my God, my leaders have lost their minds. And she's like, what's happening? And so they took her and brought her to the center of the cones to calm her down.
Wow.
We've also seen horses who are not getting along. They've been living together for 7 months, a big group of geldings, probably like 10 geldings. And this one had come in and he just didn't have the skills for whatever reason. He was 20 years old, no skills. And the protector in that group was just sick of it because he was just, this guy was just going all the time. And he was just like, get out of my face. I don't want to talk to you anymore. So we brought those two mentors, the protector and this Joker guy, in to an indoor arena, and we ended up creating safety objects so that they all believed it. This is a 4-day event. And by the 4th day, we brought them in and we just turned them loose. We sat back and watched. We put a line of cones in the sand, and they used it so that the Joker, who was on one side, the protector was on the other, used the line of cones in the middle to greet each other and to work it out, not pop each other's bubbles. And finally, when they felt better about each other, the protector moved into his side and guided him, and he was able to stay 0 and be guided. Wow. And the next day they were grooming each other.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, it was amazing. Total. And it was so crazy. The protector guy walked basically to his girth jump up button area into the other guy's space and then left. And like you could see the line in the sand. They were totally using it. It was profound.
That's really so. So the person with the water heater just added to that. She says, "Thank you for the safety concerns. It was a freak thing. The cord to the heater I was removing swung into the electric fence just as he grabbed it. Oh my God! Tank heaters are his favorite. Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah.
Whoops."
Well, maybe he won't play with the water tank heaters, and sometimes there's a positive that comes out.
Right.
Oh, but don't they sell a toy for water tanks for horses?
Oh, I
like
don't
a
know.
dunking toy. I think I saw. Remember that there was a baby horse in Uruguay. She had a dunking toy in the water tank, and he would go dunk, 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 dunk.
Oh yeah, some kind of I don't know.
Kind of like a jolly ball, but it lived in the water tank.
But this may solve your problem in terms of him, playing with the heater once he gets back to drinking the water.
Heater is not a jolly ball.
No. All right, ladies. Well, I have to run today because I've got 2 other meetings this afternoon. And as always, when are you coming back? When are you back from Europe?
We will be back May 2nd.
Oh.
And so here's the thing, really fast. You got to go. We have to go too. We are so excited because Essential Horse Speak, Continuing the Conversation, which is the 3rd book, is going to be out. Supposedly it's going to arrive finally on our continent May 25th.
Woo!
So that's supposedly, everything is different now.
It's getting printed overseas and all that.
Yeah, it's shipping over here from China. So that'll be very exciting. That's going to be happening. It should be available. We're going to be selling them through our website. So SharonWilsie.com. You can go to Trafalgar Horse and Rider Books. That Amazon monster will have those through, as well as we are releasing a new TV show called Cracking the Horse Beat Code. And that is going to start airing a bi-weekly 30-minute show through our local private local access TV station starting on May 6th, which it will be available on YouTube.
It'll be streaming
on
YouTube. So
we'll get some of that information up on the social media and things of that nature. We've been so busy and all of that. So we appreciate all of the folks who came here today to just listen to us and hear like what we have going on.
And as usual, Wendy,
thank
you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's always fun to catch up with you guys. And if we never get there in person, it would be really nice if we could get together in the same space.
Yeah. And
but at least this way we stay in touch.
We have the first book is Horse Speak, the Equine Human Translation Guide. Horses in Translation, and then now, the Essential Horse Speak, which is the dictionary.
It is the dictionary.
It is like
I wrote a dictionary.
It's an amazing book.
Yay!
So much in it.
I was like, I have to stop.
It's over it's like 300 pages with about 200.
Well, then you just have to write the second dictionary, right? After the more subtle dictionary from this.
No, actually,
we're gonna do dog speak. I'm gonna
speak.
stop talking about horses for a little bit.
Oh. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. It's always a pleasure. And we'll have to book a May date so that we can like launch all that stuff that you're going to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
Laura, get in touch with me and we'll figure that out. And thanks everybody for joining us. Just remember, you can find this and all of the other 270 something webinars on the Surefoot Equine YouTube
That's
channel.
awesome.
Tell your friends, I keep, they're great stuff and we get positive feedback all the time. We love hearing from you. So leave comments when you watch a webinar and you love it. And thanks so much for joining us and we'll see you next time.
All right.
Take care. Be well,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.